The rich young lady brought her friends to her family's store in the middle of the night to drink. While everyone was having fun outside, she and her boyfriend went to a secluded place and kissed passionately. Because she was too excited, her boyfriend accidentally dropped his cigarette butt on a pile of clothes nearby. The fire quickly flared up fiercely. A worker inside the warehouse who was sleeping felt short of breath and woke up. She went outside and found that the place was on fire, so she quickly put out the fire, but it was too late as everything had turned to ashes. The lady boss quickly arrived. However, she did not find out the cause and went straight to slap the girl. Despite the girl's attempt to explain that she did not know anything, all excuses were meaningless at this point. The lady boss got mad and chased the poor girl away. She walked absent-mindedly on the street, not knowing where her future would lead. Suddenly, she saw a billboard, so she went to a factory. However, this place didn't seem very trustworthy, but working here would provide food and accommodation, so the girl had no other choice. Under the guidance of the staff here, Ga Young successfully met the boss Kang Young-gul. He specialized in going to major fashion shows to redraw the new products of the season. At night, Young-gul made fake goods to sell in Dongdaemun. The phone rang, waking Young-gul up. Seeing the boss's unintelligent appearance, Ga Young felt uneasy, so she confirmed it. Again, she asked Young-gul if working here would really provide food and accommodation, and how much the salary was. Young-gul rambled on for a while. Very quickly, Ga Young showed off her talent. Everyone was amazed to see her sewing talent. Young-gul was also very surprised, not daring to believe his eyes, but he didn't know that Ga Young was actually a design genius. She had been once accepted into a world-famous design school. However, her admission letter had been secretly blocked by her lady boss, and Ga Young didn't know anything about these things. Ga Young's situation was pitiful at the moment, but Young-gul wasn't doing much better. He was carrying a huge debt. His friends advised him to go to meet Jung Jae-hyuk to borrow money because Jae-hyuk and Young-gul were elementary school classmates. But before Young-gul could say anything, Jae-hyuk mocked him. He asked if Young-gul had come to borrow money, and Young-gul had no choice but to deny it. Before he could say more than a couple of sentences, Jae-hyuk had already kicked him out. Young-gul took a few steps but still wasn't satisfied. He turned around and slammed the table, saying he was actually here to borrow money. Young-gul asked Jae-hyuk if he had 30 million. Young-gul forced him to answer yes or no. Jae-hyuk said no. Young-gul laughed mockingly, saying, "We both don't have 30 million won. So what's Jae-hyuk so proud of?" Young-gul walked out of the building and threatened to buy this place. Returning to the factory, the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Young-gul sat down on the bed, but he didn't expect Ga Young to actually be there. She even took up Young-gul's bed. He had no choice but to give her his place. Ga Young hugged a cane before daring to go to sleep. Very quickly, her design talent was revealed. At first, Young-gul told her to just make a copy, but Ga Young persisted with her idea. Ga Young's stubbornness gave Young-gul a headache, but looking closely, he saw that the outfit was really beautiful. He realized that Ga Young was a talented person. Thanks to this design, Young-gul was able to attract investment, so he started mass production. Young-gul also started designing according to his ideas. He was often so tired that he fell asleep on the table, and Ga Young would cover Young-gul with a coat while he slept. This batch of clothes sold very well in the market. Young-gul earned a large sum of money. He paid off his first debt. His era had just begun. Young was accepted into a famous fashion school. She was so happy that she cried. Finally, Young-gul cared about her. He knew that Ga Young had no money. She wanted to go to America, but didn't have money to buy a plane ticket. Young-gul prepared the plane ticket for her. He even pretended to be cold and said that this was a loan. Ga Young started her studies, and Young-gul accidentally provoked the woman of the tycoon Hwang Tae-sun. Because of that, he was hunted down. Young-gul had no choice but to run away everywhere. At this time, he had no money left, so when he saw the advertisement for sailors, Young-gul hesitated a bit and then got on the ship. He planned to illegally cross the border, but the danger at sea was not what he imagined. Occasionally, they would encounter strong winds and waves. On the way, the evil boss wanted to exploit the foreign employees. If they didn't work hard, they would be beaten. Young-gul tried to stop them, but was also beaten. That day, he woke up in a daze and was taken to the deck. It turned out that some foreigners had an idea of revenge. They wanted to throw all the Koreans into the sea. Young-gul watched his compatriots being thrown into the sea one by one. He was terrified that his turn was coming. The boy that Young-gul saved wanted to let him go, but the other guy didn't agree. Young-gul's hopes were dashed. He could only make eye contact with the boy. Seeing that the other guy didn't budge, Young-gul was so worried that he cried. The other guys still wanted to throw Young-gul into the sea. While crying, Young-gul was taken to the edge of the ship. The situation was urgent. He remembered that foreigners liked Rolex watches, so Young-gul shouted that he had a Rolex. He showed them the watch, saying that he could give it to them. After thinking about it, they let him down. Unexpectedly, the other guy didn't keep his word. After taking the watch, he still wanted to throw Young-gul down. He could only lie and say that he had a lot of watches. When they asked where these watches were, Young-gul said they were in America. America. He could take them to America. Young Gul went to the smugglers, sold them the boat, and asked them to help him cross the border. But the smugglers asked for a huge amount of money. They also forced him to pay another $2,000. Young Gul took out a fake watch. Seeing that the smugglers were not interested, he performed a magic trick. Finally, they agreed not to take any more money. So everyone got into the refrigerated truck and headed to America. They were crowded into a small space that was so cold that they shivered. Halfway there, they stopped to use the restroom. The other guy didn't forget to threaten that if he lied, they would kill him. Young Gul knew something was wrong. A thought popped into his head. The truck continued on, but they found that Young Gul was gone. It turned out that Young Gul had not gotten into the truck just now. At this time, he stood on the road blocking the truck, but no one stopped. He had no choice but to walk to a gas station to call the embassy. The other party said that he should call the police, but Young Gul said that he didn't know English and didn't have a visa. They said that he was an illegal resident and told him to call the immigration office. This made Young Gul angry. As a result, the other party hung up directly. He didn't know that sailors had been rescued. They said that this time, the rebellion was to hijack the ship. Young Gul was the mastermind. So when Young Gul called his friend back before he could explain, Young Gul's friend said that he had earned some money. While he was still confused, the phone was hung up. This time, Young Gul had no money to make phone calls. Looking at the endless desert, he was completely hopeless. Guy Young went to the school to enroll, but she was told that she had been rejected. Guy Young was extremely shocked and said that she had never written that email, and Cho San's daughter was not accepted, but she appeared here. Guy Young realized that this matter must be related to, with no money, she could only call Young Gul. But Guy Young didn't know that he couldn't even take care of himself. Helpless, she could only wander the streets of a foreign country. Guy Young sat on a chair to rest and was chased away by homeless people. But heaven never leaves a man with no way out. Guy Young saw a familiar face in the newspaper. She didn't expect Jae-hyuk to have a cooperative relationship with her school. Guy Young wanted to go find him for help, but Jae-hyuk had forgotten about her. Gae Young chased after him and told him what she had experienced. Jae-hyuk thought she was trying to scam him. He told his subordinates to give her money to chase Guy Young away. She angrily went straight to Jae-hyuk's office. Guy Young said that she only wanted him to help check her admission, not to take Jae-hyuk's money. But since he had already given it to her, Guy Young thanked him. When she left, Jae-hyuk remembered that he had met her at a party. He asked his subordinates to check for her. Guy Young found a house to rent together. She negotiated with her roommate that she would pay the rent later, but Bong-suk firmly refused. At the same time, the dresses Bong-suk made were returned by customers. Guy Young said nothing and immediately helped her fix the dresses. Bong-suk saw that Guy Young was talented and let her stay. With Guy Young's designs, Bong-suk's clothing business grew more and more prosperous. All day long, she just smiled and counted money. Guy Young finally received good news. The school decided to give her an interview opportunity. Gae Young also took this opportunity. Meanwhile, Young Gul was still wandering in the desert. He walked from morning to night without finding a single car to take him. Young Gul was both hungry and thirsty, almost wanting to give up. Suddenly, a car stopped and waved at him. Young Gul was extremely surprised and hurriedly ran over. Finally, he got on the car to the American city. When he arrived at Gae Young's school, he was as happy as a child. Young Gul kept thanking the driver. He looked in the mirror and removed the duck feathers on his head, making the students laugh out loud. Then, he walked into the school to find Guy Young. Even though he was poor, Young Gul still had to maintain his image. He borrowed a razor from a student to shave. Looking at the clothes designed by the students, Young Gul thought of the clothes on the catwalk. So, Young Gul transformed into the most handsome guy again. But when he went to ask, the teacher said that Guy Young was not there. At this time, she also passed by him, and his hope was once again shattered. While Young Gul was feeling sad, a dress flew over. The student who lost the dress came to ask Young Gul to return it. He was completely stripped of his clothes. At this time, Young Gul saw Jae-hyuk, whom he used to dislike, now looking like an angel. He wanted to borrow some money from Jae-hyuk, but Jae-hyuk disdainfully said that he didn't have any money to lend Young Gul. Young Gul angrily went to the place where he received guests. He grabbed Jae-hyuk by the collar and argued loudly. While Young Gul was cursing, the security guard dragged him outside. Outside, Young Gul crossed his legs and looked at the wallet he had just stolen. Yes, he did it on purpose, but Young Gul had not held it for long before someone snatched it away. He chased down several streets, but still could not catch up. Without money, Young Gul could only eat other people's leftovers. But the waiters did not even want to let him eat. Poor Young Gul walked on the street. He saw a pizza box thrown away in the store. He went to look for food, but still could not fill his stomach. At this time, Guy Young also wrote an email to Young Gul. Thanks to him, she was able to settle down in school and earn money. She felt that meeting Young Gul was the luckiest thing in her life. Young Gul was so hungry that he stole a few loaves of bread and sat by the riverbank, crying while eating. After all, he was a small boss. How did he end up like this? Young Gul finished eating and wiped his tears. He found a jacket in the trash can. For him, this was a good thing. everything now. Young-gul touched his pocket and found money. He accidentally received unexpected joy. Young-gul went to the internet cafe and immediately thought of contacting Ga-young. Finally, Young-gul saw Ga-young's email. He cried out in grievance. Young-gul didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who still remembered him. Young-gul finally found someone to rely on, so he went to Ga-young's school again, but he sat on the stairs waiting for a long time and still couldn't see her. At this time, Ga-young appeared behind him and called out to Young-gul. He turned around, his eyes shining. Finally, he found someone he knew. Young-gul ran to hug Ga-young. Ga-young took him back to the dormitory. When Bong-suk heard the situation, she guessed that Young-gul was the mastermind behind the boat theft. He was the person the police were looking for recently. Bong-suk advised Ga-young to report to the police, otherwise they would be implicated. Ga-young believed that Young-gul would not do it. She was determined to keep him, otherwise Ga-young would also move out. Bong-suk did not want to give up someone as talented as Ga-young, so she agreed to let Young-gul stay. When Ga-young returned to the dorm, Young-gul was already fast asleep on the sofa. The following days, Young-gul helped them entertain customers in the workshop. Making customers happy was what he was best at. Seeing Bong-suk moving fabric, he rushed over to help. She also put aside her prejudice against him. When the police called, she even helped Young-gul cover it up. In order not to implicate Bong-suk, Ga-young rented another house. The two of them began to worry about living expenses. Young-gul thought about the old clothes he had picked up before. Young-gul immediately had an idea, so he bought 2 old sewing machines. Young-gul picked up clothes that people did not need. Then, he redesigned and made new clothes to sell. A foreigner stared at Young-gul's clothes. He said that this was his own design. The man was curious as to why Young-gul had altered his clothes like this. It turned out that this was the world-famous designer Michael. He gave Young-gul a business card. Michael said that if Young-gul had time, he could come see him. Young-gul didn't understand anything. It wasn't until he returned home that he suddenly remembered. He had seen a fashion show ticket in Jae-hyuk's wallet. The name of the clothing brand Young-gul picked up was exactly the same as the name on the business card. Finally, he had met a celebrity in the fashion industry. Young-gul knew that his chance had come. The next day, he went to Michael's company. Unexpectedly, an employee told him to take a shower first. Young-gul wondered why the atmosphere was so strange. Halfway through his shower, Anna told him to stand up. Although he was a bit embarrassed, he still stood up under her urging. Anna said he looked so handsome, but how could he be gay? Young-gul quickly replied that he wasn't gay. It turned out that Anna misunderstood. Because Michael was attending a party, Anna brought him along. Jae-hyuk saw Young-gul appear and came to mock him. He said that this was not a place for Young-gul to come. Young-gul was about to go back when Anna came and said that Michael wanted to meet him. Jae-hyuk saw that a famous person in the fashion industry took the initiative to hug Young-gul. This made him extremely suspicious. Young-gul took Anna to see his workshop. Young-gul lied that this was just his overseas expansion workshop. Ga-young got jealous when she saw him talking happily with Anna, so much so that when Young-gul asked her to show her talent, Ga-young purposely stomped around, making them laugh and tell her to stop. Anna picked out some samples and asked Young-gul to leave his phone number. Young-gul didn't have a phone. He copied the number of the public phone downstairs and gave it to Anna. After that, he stayed in the phone booth every day. Young-gul didn't even dare to go to the bathroom. When he couldn't hold it anymore, he rushed to the bathroom. Unexpectedly, the phone rang at this time. Luckily, he answered it in time. Young-gul went to see Michael again. He wanted to buy Young-gul's design. It seemed that he had succeeded this time. Young-gul bought a bunch of meat and vegetables and was as happy as a child. He prepared a candlelight dinner, planning to celebrate with Ga-young. Ga-young was very surprised. Young-gul said that he would buy her meat in the future. He celebrated their new life with her. The two took pictures together. Young-gul said that their clothes would be sold all over the world in the future. Countless fortunes were waiting for them, but Jae-hyuk's appearance broke this warm atmosphere. He said that Young-gul was dragging Ga-young into trouble, as the police were hunting Young-gul for stealing a boat. Young-gul didn't like Jae-hyuk interfering in his and Ga-young's business. The two of them didn't get along and got into a fight. As soon as Jae-hyuk left, the police came to arrest Young-gul. Young-gul looked at Jae-hyuk angrily, thinking that he had called police, but this time he really misunderstood. The person who called the police was Cho-son's daughter. Her purpose was to get Ga-young expelled from school. Young-gul looked at Ga-young helplessly, but was forced into the police car. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison. While in prison, Young-gul was often bullied. He had to do dirty work and was even forced to mop the floor. Thinking about being in prison because of Jae-hyuk, Young-gul hated him very much. He vowed to rise to the top so that no one would trample on him. Ga-young was expelled from school and deported back to her country because she harbored a wanted criminal. She went to work at a sewing factory, but the director criticized her for being too meticulous. Young-gul was not suitable for such a rushed sewing factory. She had nowhere else to go. Ga-young returned to Young-gul's workshop, but it was closed. There was a sign on the door for urgent rent. She went to interview few companies, but because of her poor qualifications, she was always rejected. On this side, young Gul used leftover fabric to make clothes and gave them to the prison warden. Because the warden's son had just been born, he liked them very much. Not long after, the warden came and showed him a photo. He asked young Gul if he could make such clothes. For young Gul, this was a small matter. When he opened the photo, he was very surprised. This was the outfit he designed. Michael had brought young Gul's design to the international stage. That meant Michael had bought his design. Because of his good performance, young Gul not only received his salary, but was also released from prison early. Young Gul was very happy when his friends came to pick him up to celebrate. He didn't expect that person to come to take him to meet the boss. It turned out that Taesan still remembered that he had seduced his women. Poor young Gul, just out of prison, was arrested again. On the way, his friend said Jae-hyuk had returned to the country. Young Gul suddenly became more excited. While his friend wasn't paying attention, young Gul ran away. When he found Jae-hyuk, he immediately went up and punched Jae-hyuk. Of course, Jae-hyuk was not convinced, so he took off his jacket and tried to hit young Gul. Young Gul wanted to continue hitting Jae-hyuk, but was knocked down by him. Young Gul was not convinced and shouted. He said Jae-hyuk only had a little money because his parents were rich. At the same time, Ga-young was evicted for not being able to pay the rent. She fell and dislocated her ankle while carrying her belongings outside. At this time, she felt extremely miserable. Ga-young tried to hold back her tears, picked up the pots and pans. She dragged her luggage and wandered the streets again. By chance, she saw young Gul's workshop recruiting designers. Ga-young hoped to return to his workshop. Seeing that the door was really open, Ga-young happily walked in, but Ga-young discovered that the boss was not young Gul. Ga-young's hopes were dashed in an instant. The boss discovered that she was the girl who was with young Gul. He grabbed her hair and asked her to compensate him for his losses. It turned out that they had all suffered heavy losses because of young Gul. Now that they couldn't find him, they took their anger out on Ga-young. Young Gul had just returned and hesitated when he saw this scene. He turned around and saw that Taesan's people were also looking for him, so he left Ga-young and left. Young Gul sat on the bus. The more he thought about it, the more guilty he felt. He felt that he was really not a man, so he got off the bus and ran back to the old place. But he couldn't find Ga-young anywhere. Ga-young miserably returned to Chosun's store. She asked her to lend her some money, since this store originally belonged to her parents. If Chosun didn't give her the money, she would stay here. Chosun said she would report it to the police, but Ga-young threatened to reveal everything to reporters, so she had no choice but to compromise. Ga-young went to the warehouse, pushed the things out, and brushed a wooden board. Then, Ga-young took a blanket and prepared to stay there for the night. But when she saw herself covered in injuries, her tears kept falling. Ga-young couldn't sleep, so she drew a design. Then, she found some scraps of fabric and started cutting and sewing all night. Very quickly, a new shirt was born. The next day, she contacted Jae-hyuk. He was having a headache over the company's designs. Anna was his ex-girlfriend, but they were back together. However, her designs always didn't turn out as expected, so he agreed to meet Ga-young in the evening. She took advantage of Chosun's interview to ask her to give her money for her ride. Chosun had no choice but to happily hand over the money. The shirt she was wearing made the reporters keep praising her. Chosun shamelessly said that it was her design, but in her heart she was furious. When they arrived at the restaurant, Ga-young immediately explained it to Jae-hyuk. He thought she was flirting with him. Jit didn't expect that Ga-young only wanted to explain about the shirt. She said that she had many designs and wanted him to pay the deposit for the cooperation in advance. Because Ga-young's belongings were being held back, she had to help young Gul pay off the debt before she could get them back. Jae-hyuk promised to consider it and took her home. At this time, young Gul, who was in a miserable state, also came to find her. He happened to be splashed in the face by Jae-hyuk's car. He was very happy when he saw Ga-young getting out of the car. Immediately after, Jae-hyuk got out of the car and held an umbrella for Ga-young. At this time, young Gul's heart was in indescribable pain. During this time, he was no better because he had seduced Taesan's woman. In the end, young Gul still had to face him. Taesan grabbed young Gul and beat him up, saying he would kill young Gul. Young Gul had no choice but to take out his treasure. He said that this outfit was designed by him. His outfit could appear in Michael's show, which showed how valuable it was. He painted a big picture for Taesan. Young Gul said that he would try his best to help him make a lot of money. Taesan decided to give him another chance. Young Gul narrowly escaped death. He found Ga-young's address and came here. Young Gul didn't expect to see this scene. Ga-young had just returned to the store when Chosun questioned her about why she stole the store's fabric. In fact, she was jealous of Ga-young's design. Chosun forced her to take off her shirt. Ga-young endured the humiliation and took off her shirt. Chosun also forced her to pay her for the taxi. Ga-young touched her pocket and found that the money was gone. She was very embarrassed. At this time, young Gul suddenly appeared. He generously threw out a handful of coins. Young Gul asked Ga-young if she wanted to go with him. Ga-young agreed. He held out his hand for her to take. The two left. Together, young Gul turned back to look at Chosun. He would remember this debt. In order to get back Ga-young's luggage that was kept, the two of them braved the wind and rain to return to the old factory. Young-gul tried the old key, and it still opened. He happily waved at Ga-young. So the two of them entered this place they had been away from for a long time. Young-gul entered the office and saw that the inside was still the same. He found the old books. Young-gul changed clothes and just happened to see Ga-young changing clothes too. He quickly turned around and saw her luggage scattered. Ga-young still kept the photo of the two of them together. Recalling the beautiful memories at that time, Young-gul's heart was clearly moved. But Young-gul said something that was not to his liking. He blamed Ga-young for carrying these messy things. Actually, he was hiding his inner feelings. Ga-young tried to hold back her tears. The next day, Young-gul took Ga-young to his friend's store. He left her there, and he went to the bank to borrow money. But Young-gul had no guarantor. He took out the clothes he designed, but the staff did not believe him. Helplessly, he had no choice but to leave. Although Young-gul had recovered some of his debt, he was still very short. At this time, he saw Anna again. The two greeted each other and left together, laughing and talking. This scene was seen by Ga-young again. She felt extremely sad. Young-gul wanted to contact Michael through Anna, because he still had to ask Michael for the design fee. Anna said she would help him. The two chatted happily. Anna accidentally got drunk and let Young-gul take her home. As soon as she went out, Young-gul bumped into Jae-hyuk. He was jealous and punched Young-gul. Back at the store, Ga-young was already asleep. Looking at her old shoes, Young-gul thought of Anna's beautiful shoes. Young-gul felt a little sorry for Ga-young. He lay down next to Ga-young. At this time, Ga-young woke up and covered him with a blanket. The next day, she gave the design to Young-gul. As soon as he opened the first page, Young-gul was shocked. Looking at the second page, his eyes lit up. The clothes all became finished products and appeared before his eyes. Young-gul seemed to see a lot of money appearing before his eyes. Then Young-gul looked at Ga-young and smiled wickedly. So he started to put makeup on Ga-young. Finally, he chose this outfit for her. Young-gul saw that something was missing. He pulled Ga-young's hair back and unbuttoned the top button of her shirt. After that, she went to Jae-hyuk's company. He seemed to want to see through Ga-young's thoughts. Jae-hyuk said bluntly that he only wanted to buy her design. Ga-young couldn't accept it because she wanted to cooperate. She wanted Jae-hyuk to pay for the design and production in advance. In the end, Jae-hyuk compromised. He let Young-gul send him the company ID and account number. Young-gul received the startup funds. He wanted to restart the factory, but the money was all used to pay off debts. That led to not having money to buy fabric. Young-gul targeted Jae-hyuk again to have Ga-young ask him for some fabric. Ga-young didn't agree. She said if he wanted to, he could go himself. But unexpectedly, Jae-hyuk came to him himself. He guessed that they didn't have money. Seeing this environment, Jae-hyuk didn't believe that they could make a sample here. Jae-hyuk suggested that Ga-young come to his company to work until she made a sample. Young-gul didn't want to, but had no choice. Who told you to spend someone else's money? The next day, Ga-young went to work. Young-gul also told her to secretly take some fabric from the company's warehouse. Ga-young looked helpless. Right after she left, Young-gul got into trouble again. Tae-san told him to keep his promise from last time. He then found some scrap fabric for the tailor to fold a suit. Next, he went to Tae-san to deceive him. Young-gul said that he was going to build a fashion empire called Tae-san. At the same time, Young-gul painted a beautiful vision for him. Next, he let the female employee wear a short skirt to introduce the new outfit. Young-gul turned the female employee into an international high-end designer. Tae-san was overjoyed. Young-gul escaped again. Ga-young was not welcomed in the company. Although her design was credited to Anna, she was not grateful. On the contrary, Anna showed her attitude towards Ga-young. She was jealous of Ga-young's talent and felt that Jae-hyuk treated her differently. It must be said that women's intuition is very accurate. Jae-hyuk couldn't concentrate on work. He couldn't help but think about Ga-young. Jae-hyuk went to find her. At that time, Ga-young was stealing fabric from the warehouse. Even though she knew it was wrong, she still did it because Young-gul was attached. In order to get a roll of fabric, she climbed onto the cart but couldn't reach it. At that moment, the cart slid backwards, causing her to fall. Jae-hyuk caught her in time. This moment made Jae-hyuk feel moved. While Ga-young was worried, Jae-hyuk was still confused. How could he realize that Ga-young was stealing fabric? She only said a few words, and he believed her right away. Recalling what had just happened, the corners of Jae-hyuk's mouth couldn't help but curl up. Jae-hyuk met Ga-young again at the bus stop. He wanted to give her a ride. Ga-young really wanted to avoid him, but he called her name directly. With no other choice, Ga-young had no choice but to say that she had taken the fabric back to make it. Urgently, Jae-hyuk understood but didn't say anything. He also told her that if she had any difficulties, she could come to him. On the other side, Anna went to find Young-gul. He was very happy because he thought she liked him, so he came to find her. Unexpectedly, Anna came to show off. She wanted to use money for Young-gul to send Ga-young to live abroad, not to let Ga-young hinder Anna's future. Young-gul was also angry, asking why she appeared in front of him to give orders. But right after that, he kissed Anna. The purpose was to get revenge on Jae-hyuk, and Young-gul also achieved his goal. As soon as they went out, the four of them met each other. Seeing his girlfriend appear here, Jae-hyuk's expression also changed. The person who was equally angry was Ga-young. She didn't want to talk to Young-gul. Young-gul saw the fabric she brought back but wasn't grateful. He also blamed her for riding in Jae-hyuk's car, causing her pain. Young-gul stared at the luxury car. He had never felt so hungry for money. One day, he would be able to buy this luxury car. Without any startup funds, Young-gul used the design to trade with Jae-hyuk, but he wouldn't let the other party make money so easily. As soon as he returned, Young-gul told the factory to quickly make a sample. On the day Jae-hyuk's company held an evaluation meeting, a performance was also held at Young-gul's factory. The unique design made everyone praise it. Young-gul was very happy, but only Ga-young was unhappy because it was her design. Ga-young believed that if he received money from someone, he had to keep his word, but Young-gul didn't care about that. Very quickly, the orders came in. Young-gul could sit and count the money. He received a call from Anna and didn't care about Ga-young's mood. He just went out, leaving her in pain and tears. At this time, a drunk Jae-hyuk came. He saw Ga-young's bed and lay down on it. Ga-young wanted to wake him up, but Jae-hyuk pulled her down and kissed her. This scene was just seen by Young-gul, who returned. He screamed and grabbed Jae-hyuk and punched him in the face. He beat Jae-hyuk madly, even picking up a sofa to smash it. Fortunately, Jae-hyuk's secretary stopped Young-gul. Ga-young helped Jae-hyuk up and took him outside. Young-gul was extremely jealous but couldn't do anything. The next day, Jae-hyuk encountered a big problem. The design he bought was copied and sold everywhere. Young-gul dressed up nicely and went to Jae-hyuk's company. Seeing Jae-hyuk's ugly expression, he was extremely pleased. Jae-hyuk said he would sue Young-gul, but he wasn't afraid because he had registered the copyright for the design a long time ago. This made Jae-hyuk so angry that he wanted to beat Young-gul up. Jae-hyuk didn't know what to do now. The overseas factory had already started production. If he didn't get production rights, everything would have to be cancelled. Young-gul gave him two options. It was either pay 50 billion and go to jail to settle down, or invest 5 billion in Young-gul to earn 50 billion. Young-gul saw cosmetics in the store while walking on the street. He thought of Ga-young, who didn't even have these. Young-gul went and personally picked out a set to give to her. But as soon as he returned to the factory, he saw Jae-hyuk. He came to question Ga-young, but Young-gul didn't understand her situation. He just got angry and broke the whole set of cosmetics. And Ga-young, after getting drunk, told Young-gul that no matter what he did, she would stand by him. At that time, Young-gul pretended to be asleep and heard everything. On this side, Jae-hyuk was worried when Chosun came to him. She told Jae-hyuk to sue Ga-young for stealing the company's design. This idea was actually given by Anna. Very quickly, Jae-hyuk's company's legal department came to Ga-young. Young-gul was also gloating because he had angered Jae-hyuk. He thought that when he earned money, he would buy a house for Ga-young. But now he received news that Ga-young was being sued. Young-gul angrily went to find Jae-hyuk. He told Jae-hyuk to just target him and not hurt Ga-young. In fact, Jae-hyuk was betting that Young-gul wouldn't give up 50 billion for Ga-young. Once she was sued, Ga-young's design career would be over. Young-gul had no choice but to compromise and say that it was all his fault. Jae-hyuk took out a document and asked him to sign it. He forced Young-gul to admit that he sent Ga-young to steal Anna's design. He smiled and wrote a few words. Jae-hyuk the bastard on it. Jae-hyuk was extremely angry. Young-gul tore up the document and told Jae-hyuk to just put them in jail. If Ga-young's life was ruined, Young-gul would take her away. Then, he threw the scrap of paper in Jae-hyuk's face and left. On the surface, he was relaxed, but on the inside, Young-gul was still very worried. Ga-young said that they should just sue. Even if she had to draw, she would prove her innocence. But Young-gul was very upset. Young-gul couldn't bear it because Ga-young's career and dreams could be ruined because of this. So he sat by Ga-young's bed all night. Finally, Young-gul made up his mind. Jae-hyuk was also very sad. Seeing that Young-gul didn't contact him, he didn't prepare to sue Ga-young anymore. Jae-hyuk told his secretary to prepare 50 billion. But Young-gul came at this time. He didn't come to sign, but to propose a cooperation. Young-gul presented his design in Michael's fashion show. He said that his ability was recognized by Michael, and Ga-young's ability was also recognized by them. As long as Jae-hyuk cooperated with them, it would be mutually beneficial. Finally, Jae-hyuk was a little hesitant. He decided to drop the lawsuit. They made an appointment to meet. Seeing the expensive prices on the menu, Young-gul and Ga-young were both surprised. Jae-hyuk came here to humiliate Young-gul. Jae-hyuk said that he wouldn't cooperate with a thief like him. Jae-hyuk also advised Ga-young not to waste her talent under a useless person. Young-gul was furious. Ga-young held him back and started to taunt Jae-hyuk. She said Jae-hyuk liked to distort the truth like that. That dress was her design. All four of them knew it. Jae-hyuk was the one who should feel ashamed. Ga-young finished speaking and prepared to leave. Young-gul felt a warmth he had never felt before. He took Ga-young's hand and sat down. He told her that since she had already ordered, she should finish everything before leaving. Jae-hyuk also wanted to mock Young-gul. He told Young-gul to just eat because Young-gul would never eat this delicious food in her life anyway. After Jae-hyuk left, the two of them suppressed the bitterness in their hearts and started eating. They cried while eating. It was hard for poor people to succeed. Young-gul modeled himself. He wore the clothes he designed and took pictures. So did Ga-young. Then, they edited the photos into an album. Ga-young wrote a letter to the famous designer Michael. Young-gul wrote his name on it. This would be their hope. That night, a phone call woke him up. As soon as he heard it, Young-gul woke up. It was Michael's phone. Ga-young heard the sound and woke up. Seeing him so excited, she was also very nervous. Michael told them to come to America to see him next week. The two of them were very excited and took out their clothes to check. Young-gul lifted Ga-young's face up. He asked her if she knew what he wanted to do most when he had money. That was to find a house for her to move out of this factory. Ga-young didn't want to hide her feelings anymore. She took the initiative to kiss Young-gul. As he said, the director and employees couldn't be like that, but he was so nervous that his heart was beating out of control. Liking someone meant being careful like that. Ga-young was both embarrassed and happy. The two of them started preparing for their trip abroad. They packed up the clothing samples and sent them to America. Taeson also asked someone to give some money to Young-gul. He directly gave the money to Ga-young to keep, which made her very happy. This was the first time the two of them took a plane together. Young-gul held her hand and thanked her. Ga-young was so touched that she cried. She felt that everything she did was worth it. The first thing they did when they arrived in America was to find Michael. Everything went very smoothly. They even made a date to go out to eat. While Ga-young was putting on her makeup, Jae-hyuk came over. He saw that she didn't answer him, so he ran to America on purpose. The two of them were having an awkward conversation. After asking about Ga-young's flight, he was about to leave, but as soon as he opened the door, he met Young-gul. Seeing the two of them together, Young-gul misunderstood again. On the way back, Young-gul was clearly not as happy as when he left. A flight attendant said that someone in first class wanted to see Ga-young. Ga-young hesitated for a moment and then went over. Young-gul opened her eyes sadly. In front of Jae-hyuk, Ga-young was very uncomfortable. Jae-hyuk advised her to finish her studies first. Ga-young said that she couldn't go to school anymore. She still had a lot of work to do. Jae-hyuk asked her to stay with him, but she refused and returned to Young-gul. Ga-young even kindly covered him with a blanket. On this overseas trip, Michael planned to help Young-gul's brand get into department stores. They were planning to start overseas first and then expand globally. The two celebrated and talked about the good things in the past. At that moment, Ga-young said that Young-gul's arrest was not because Jae-hyuk had reported him. Young-gul was very angry. He thought that she wanted to use this situation so that he wouldn't hate Jae-hyuk anymore. The two ended the meal in an unhappy atmosphere. To officially start his career, Young-gul prepared business cards for everyone. The staff were all very happy. Ga-young also received a business card as her own head designer. Young-gul was president. Everything seemed to be going well. Young-gul's career, which had just begun, was suppressed because he teased Jae-hyuk's woman. Yesterday, Anna called Young-gul out because she had a fight with Jae-hyuk. Although the two of them were just drinking, Ga-young couldn't sleep all night. Young-gul still hadn't come home the next day. Jae-hyuk knew about this. He was so angry that he told someone to make things difficult for Young-gul. As a result, Young-gul's rent increased. His investment capital was also revoked. He wasn't allowed to borrow money. Young-gul's factory suddenly fell into trouble. Ga-young took out her savings book to help him. Although Young-gul said he didn't need it, he couldn't help but ask for the password. The reporters knew through Anna that Young-gul was cooperating with Michael, so they immediately went to interview Young-gul. Chosun also received the news and came to find him. She was really shameless. It seemed that Chosun had forgotten all the unpleasant things from before. She even proposed to cooperate with Young-gul to enter the US market because her fashion store in Korea was also #1. Coupled with Young-gul's influence overseas, it could be said that both sides were beneficial. Thinking about how Chosun had bullied Ga-young since childhood, Ga-young hated her very much. She strongly opposed Young-gul cooperating with Chosun, but in Young-gul's eyes, as long as it was beneficial to his career, there were no eternal enemies. Although Ga-young said that she hated Chosun, Young-gul still made his own decision. Very soon, under the witness of the reporters, Young-gul and Chosun officially signed a cooperation contract. To ease Ga-young's anger, Young-gul bought a phone as a gift for her. Everyone went to the technician's place to celebrate. Seeing Ga-young sad, he pulled her into his arms. On the way back, Ga-young expressed her attitude once again. If she had to cooperate with Chosun, she wouldn't do it anymore. Ga-young couldn't forget the pain Chosun had caused her. Young-gul couldn't persuade her, so he had to pull her home. But as soon as they reached the door, they saw Anna waiting. Young-gul unconsciously let go of Ga-young's hand. Anna said she had something to talk to Young-gul about. The two left together. Ga-young was sad and cried. She couldn't help but ask him if he wasn't coming back today either, right? Then, Young-gul said something that hurt her. Looking at the backs of the two people leaving, Ga-young was completely heartbroken. Anna said that she and Jae-hyuk had broken up. She wanted to change targets. Just as Jae-hyuk called Young-gul, Anna picked up the phone. More worried he was, the more satisfied Young-gul felt. But he didn't know that Ga-young was writing writing a farewell letter at this time. Although she couldn't bear it, she would rather die than cooperate with Chosun. So Ga-young wanted to leave. At this time, Jae-hyuk came here and saw Ga-young crying. He didn't understand why she was wasting her time here. Ga-young had to eat instant noodles every day. Jae-hyuk pulled Ga-young up and asked her one last time, did she want to follow him or die at Toy? Young-gul's hands. Young-gul had just returned. He was sure that Ga-young wouldn't leave, so he asked her to answer. Unexpectedly, she chose Jae-hyuk. In his anger, he threw her luggage outside. Jae-hyuk pulled Ga-young away. Young-gul regretted it as soon as he got angry. Jae-hyuk wanted her to come live at his house, but Young-gul grabbed Ga-young's hand and asked where she was going. He told Ga-young to leave. Did she really leave? He pulled Ga-young behind him. In the end, she still couldn't bear to leave. Young-gul told her not to run away from home and not to misunderstand him. Young-gul's gentleness made Ga-young extremely happy. Young-gul's cooperation affected Jae-hyuk's company. Jae-hyuk found out that 50 billion Chosun invested in Young-gul was all bank loans. He used his connections to block the loan. However, Chosun came to threaten Jae-hyuk. She said that he could either sue Ga-young to take the design copyright or invest 100 billion for Chosun to buy half of the shares. Jae-hyuk was also a ruthless person. He called Ga-young over and frankly said that he liked her. If Jae-hyuk couldn't have Ga-young, no one else could hope to have her. He told her to come work at his company, otherwise he would sue her and Young-gul for plagiarism. At this time, Young-gul was making a dress by himself. He wanted to surprise Ga-young. When he saw her coming back, he quickly covered it up. However, Ga-young was sad. Young-gul thought she was just upset. Ga-young's designs were very popular. The clothes were sought after by everyone as soon as they were released. Orders kept coming in, reaching 50 billion. Young-gul happily hugged her. Everyone in the factory was happy too. Young-gul told Ga-young that the ordeal was over, but he didn't know that Ga-young was about to leave him. Young-gul worked all night to finish the dress. He was full of anticipation, writing a birthday wish in his notebook. The first time, Young-gul wrote, "You will always be my little sister," but he felt it was not right, so he crossed it out. Then he wrote, "You will always be Young-gul's woman," and he crossed it out too. Finally, Young-gul wrote, "You will always be my lucky goddess." Ga-young woke up to see Young-gul cooking. When he saw her, he said, "Happy birthday." Looking at the tray full of food, Ga-young was so moved that she cried. This was the first time someone had celebrated her birthday. Young-gul pushed the gift out. Young-gul also said that he would cook for her every time she had a birthday in the future. This could be considered a love confession. Ga-young tearfully changed her dress, but she had to wear it to Jae-hyuk's company. However, Jae-hyuk did not keep his word. He still wanted to sue. Young-gul always felt that there was something strange about Ga-young today. Young-gul immediately called her. Unexpectedly, the phone rang in the office. Young-gul looked at her phone and immediately understood. Ga-young had secretly gone to see Jae-hyuk, so he went to Jae-hyuk's company. Just in time, he saw Ga-young and the design director discussing work. Finally, Young-gul confirmed his guess. Young-gul thought that Ga-young had voluntarily chosen a big company, so he left in disappointment. He angrily went to find Jae-hyuk, saying that he and Anna had no relationship. Young-gul told Jae-hyuk to stop messing with Ga-young, but it was obviously too late. Young-gul had made some money now. He went to buy a car, but before Young-gul could be happy, he received a call from the police. They told him to come for questioning. Jae-hyuk had copied Anna's work to sell. Because Young-gul had a criminal record, the prosecutor didn't believe him. He randomly gave some evidence and told Young-gul to negotiate with the plaintiff. Young-gul wanted to find Jae-hyuk, but saw Ga-young chasing him. Young-gul misunderstood their relationship. Ga-young went to beg Jae-hyuk to drop the lawsuit, but he didn't want to talk about it. She chased him all the way to his house. Ga-young lay on the sofa and refused to leave unless Jae-hyuk dropped the lawsuit. Jae-hyuk couldn't chase Ga-young away, so he just left her alone. But Ga-young didn't know that Young-gul was waiting for her downstairs. Seeing that she didn't come down, he returned to the workshop alone. Looking at Ga-young's empty bed, Young-gul felt even more heartbroken. He thought about the previous images of her and Jae-hyuk. Young-gul became more and more suspicious of their relationship. The more Young-gul thought, the angrier he got, and finally, he couldn't calm down anymore. He called Ga-young, but she was already asleep. Jae-hyuk deliberately answered the phone, saying she was sleeping. He wanted Young-gul to misunderstand. Young-gul indeed misunderstood and became even angrier. Early in the morning, Young-gul came to block Jae-hyuk again, asking him what he wanted to do. Jae-hyuk deliberately said that he had confessed his love, and Ga-young willingly followed him. He told Young-gul to sell the IGM brand to him at a cheap price. Otherwise, he would end up going to jail empty-handed. Young-gul refused to give up. He deliberately came in front of Anna to show his existence. When he returned to the factory, Young-gul had fully recovered very quickly. Anna texted him to ask him out to eat. Young-gul gave instructions to the factory staff before leaving. While they were eating, Mike called. Young-gul deliberately revealed that Mike would introduce him to an investor. This was overheard by Jae-hyuk's subordinates. Back at the factory, Young-gul seriously talked to Ga-young. He questioned her why she went to Jae-hyuk's company and stayed at his house overnight. Ga-young explained, but he didn't believe her. He thought she was making up up an excuse to meet Jae-hyuk. Young-gul told her that if she wanted to go to Jae-hyuk's company, she could go. He wouldn't stop her anymore. The misunderstanding between the two deepened. The next day, he tricked Chang In-kook into buying an expensive suit. After that, Young-gul deliberately came in front of Jae-hyuk. He said that he had to pick up a customer later, so he couldn't talk much to Jae-hyuk. Chosun had invested 50 billion, seeing that it was about to fail. Chosun angrily went to find Young-gul to resolve the matter. As soon as she entered the factory, she saw several employees standing in line. While Chosun was still wondering, Young-gul walked in with a man and a woman. They looked like rich people. Young-gul pretended to be very busy, saying that he had to meet a guest from America first. He scared Chosun so that she didn't dare to say much. Next, Young-gul skillfully used his English ability. He introduced himself professionally, making Chosun look at him blankly. She thought that this was really an investor. Young-gul used the excuse of taking the investor away, but intentionally left the investment contract behind. Chosun was extremely surprised when she saw the investment amount of up to $10 million. She no longer had any intention of withdrawing the capital, but she didn't know that all of this was Young-gul's plan. As for Jae-hyuk, President Chung also knew that he received the investment. He immediately told his son to give up the lawsuit. As long as Jae-hyuk had the investment, the fine was nothing. He told Jae-hyuk to find another way. Young-gul finished the big trouble and hurried to look at the house. He had reserved a room for Ga-young, and this house was right below Jae-hyuk's house. He bought it himself. Jae-hyuk admitted that he had lost to Young-gul. Jae-hyuk asked him how much money he wanted to sell his IGM shares to him. Young-gul offered 50 billion. Jae-hyuk's condition was that Young-gul had to give up Ga-young to him. He flatly refused, but when he returned to the factory, he met Ga-young again. She said that she had decided to go to Jae-hyuk's company. For the past 2 days, she had been remembering that he had told her to leave if she wanted to. He didn't want to accept the fact that she wanted to leave, but this time, Ga-young was serious. Young-gul woke up and found that she had already left. Ga-young moved in with Bong-soo. She returned to Jae-hyuk's company. The happiest person was Jae-hyuk. He couldn't wait to see her. At this time, he found out that Young-gul's investment was fake. Based on this information, he bought Chosun's IGM shares at the investment price. At this point, Young-gul had no way back. He agreed to sell the shares to Jae-hyuk for 50 billion. But Young-gul didn't feel sorry, because this brand was originally created to appease Taesan. The name was also unbearably rustic, earning a lot of money. Young-gul was not happy. In the quiet of the night, he thought of Ga-young again. Looking at the empty bed, Young-gul couldn't help but lie down on it, but couldn't sleep. Entering the office, he seemed to see Ga-young, but it turned out to be just an illusion. Young-gul went out drinking, and he saw Ga-young's figure everywhere. But as soon as he left the factory, Ga-young arrived. The two of them missed each other perfectly. Young-gul went from a poor boy to today. He owns a luxury villa, but by Young-gul's side, the woman who had gone through so many hardships with him was no longer there. Young-gul sold the brand he founded for 50 billion. He gave the money to his employees. He also prepared Ga-young's share and contacted her. But Ga-young happened to have a party. Seeing Ga-young and Jae-hyuk leave, Young-gul got angry again. Young-gul went home to drink to relieve his sadness, and inspiration came back. He started sewing dresses again. At this time, Anna came to offer to be his model. When Ga-young mustered up the courage to go to the workshop, she saw the two of them being intimate. She had no choice but to leave heartbroken. Young-gul started a new brand called GG. On the day of the new product launch, Jae-hyuk and Ga-young were also invited. Young-gul still had talent in design. His designs made Jae-hyuk feel threatened, but the person who greeted the audience with Young-gul was Anna. This made Ga-young extremely heartbroken. Jae-hyuk held her hand to comfort her. Staring at their tightly held hands, Young-gul also felt very uncomfortable. They were really hurting each other. The press conference was very successful. Everyone gathered to celebrate, but Young-gul felt a sense of loss for no apparent reason. Out of sadness, Ga-young went drinking with Jae-hyuk. After getting drunk, she slept at his house. Early the next morning, she ran into Young-gul again in the elevator. He was upset because he thought the two of them had lived together. Ga-young hurriedly explained, but Jae-hyuk interrupted her. He wanted Young-gul to misunderstand. Thinking about what happened in the morning made Ga-young lose focus all day. Finally, she mustered up the courage to go find Young-gul to explain. But he didn't want to hear much. Ga-young angrily slapped him, but heard his cold voice telling her to leave. She cried again and left. Young-gul really had too much of an ego. Ga-young began to focus on her work wholeheartedly. Young-gul also expanded his business map with Anna's support. Under his unique business model, his GG brand grew more and more. It even surpassed Jae-hyuk's IGM. President Chung began to pay attention to Young-gul. He told Jae-hyuk to contact Young-gul more, so Jae-hyuk invited Ga-young to his house for dinner. At the same time, he also invited Young-gul and Anna. The moment of opening the door was awkward. Ga-young was even wearing a dress that Young-gul made, but she was wearing Jae-hyuk's apron. You can imagine the strange atmosphere. Jae-hyuk saw Ga-young get sauce on her and helped her wipe it off. Young-gul felt uncomfortable when she saw that. It was truly an unpleasant meal. Ga-young sat sadly entered the elevator. She remembered the good things they had together. In the end, Ga-young still couldn't accept it and rang Young-gul's doorbell. She cried and said, "I love you." Ga-young said that if she didn't tell him, she would regret it for the rest of her life. She also said that she wanted to work with him again. While Young-gul was in a daze, Anna walked out. Ga-young left in pain. When she got home, she fell ill. Young-gul wanted Ga-young to come back, but Anna said that he could only choose one of them. In addition, he and Jae-hyuk had made a deal before. In order for Ga-young to complete her studies and go out into the world, Young-gul contacted Ga-young. He told her to stay at Jae-hyuk's company. Ga-young couldn't believe what she heard. She was completely hopeless. Young-gul continued to expand his career. Now, he had become a celebrity in the fashion industry. Ga-young also won the company's fashion competition thanks to her efforts. At the same time, Young-gul also began investigating how Ga-young's parents' store had been robbed. Young-gul sent a lawyer to find Cho-son. He officially declared war on her. Ga-young learned about this, but did not appreciate Young-gul. She thought that Young-gul was up to something again. The older sister at the factory deliberately invited Young-gul to dinner and then called Ga-young over, meaning she wanted the two of them to make up. It was obvious that the two of them did not expect to meet here. They were both stunned for a moment. Ga-young just told Young-gul not to mind her business anymore. Then she stood up and left. Young-gul chased after her and told her to come back. He would go by himself. But very soon after, the two of them met again. They both went to New York for work. Ga-young did not know how to face him. She quickly turned her head away. The two of them, who used to be very close, had now become strangers. Coincidentally, the two stayed in the same hotel, and the rooms were close together. Young-gul and Ga-young both had something on their minds. In the end, Ga-young couldn't sit still anymore. She wanted to go find Young-gul. As a result, as soon as she opened the door, she saw him. Finally, Young-gul took the initiative once. He begged Ga-young to forgive him. But at this moment, the phone rang. It was Jae-hyuk's phone. As soon as he heard it was Jae-hyuk, he immediately threw Ga-young's phone away. Before Ga-young could react, he kissed her. The two of them no longer cared about the phone. They passionately kissed. Jae-hyuk couldn't sit still anymore. He wanted to fly to New York immediately, but was stopped by his father. As for the two of them, they finally made up. They told each other about their longing. Young-gul explained why he didn't let Ga-young come back, because he was afraid of hurting her, and also afraid that she would hurt herself. Young-gul took Ga-young to the house he bought in New York. This was the highest floor where he could see the whole view. They could even see the small apartment they used to live in. Young-gul painted a bright future for her. Young-gul was very happy and wanted to do everything for Ga-young, but Ga-young felt like he had become a different person. When he got on the plane to return, Young-gul was very satisfied. He believed that he would soon regain his first brand. People in love were different. They had just been apart for a while, but they were already calling. Young-gul said that he missed Ga-young very much. He also wanted Ga-young to quit her job tomorrow and come back. During work hours, he also went to find Ga-young. They enjoyed their private time together. The two dated like normal couples. The atmosphere was filled with sweetness. Jae-hyuk was sad because Ga-young fell in love with someone else after returning from a business trip. Anna saw that Young-gul was smiling brightly every day. She said straight out that she came to work here because of Young-gul. He made the boundary clear. Young-gul said that he and Anna were just friends. In the end, only Anna got hurt. Jae-hyuk really had money to do whatever he wanted. In order to keep the woman he liked, he promoted her and gave her a raise. At the same time, Jae-hyuk also gave Ga-young a house and a car. Ga-young told Young-gul the good news. Young-gul was unhappy, saying that he told her to quit her job. Why did she get promoted? Today was Young-gul's birthday. Young-gul had prepared a candlelight dinner. He had also prepared a diamond necklace for Ga-young, but Young-gul waited for a long time, but still did not see Ga-young come. He called her, but she did not answer. At this time, Ga-young was celebrating her promotion with her colleagues. Jae-hyuk took her home and gave her a necklace. By the time Ga-young arrived at the factory, the candles were almost burned out. Young-gul had also finished a bottle of wine. When he woke up, he saw the necklace around Ga-young's neck. He knew that Jae-hyuk gave it to her, so he was even more upset. Young-gul told Ga-young to quit again. He said that he hated Jae-hyuk. She said that he didn't think about her. They argued again. The next day, Ga-young found out that yesterday was Young-gul's birthday. She felt very regretful. After careful consideration, Ga-young still submitted her resignation. Jae-hyuk was furious. IGM's sales were much lower than Young-gul's. Because GG's unique production model had advantages, Jae-hyuk wanted to buy it, but now Young-gul relied on this brand to make money. It was obvious that Young-gul wouldn't sell. Jae-hyuk wanted to turn IGM into the same model. Coincidentally, there was a company that wanted to cooperate with Jae-hyuk. He didn't know that the owner behind the company was Young-gul. Young-gul wanted to make Jae-hyuk lose everything. To make up for it, Ga-young made a shirt for Young-gul. He immediately became happy again and then took Ga-young home. What he always wanted to do was buy her a house. Finally, Young-gul did it. He took her to see the dressing room. Young-gul even prepared a wardrobe for Ga-young. He told Ga-young to stay here forever. Young-gul wanted her to go back to school to continue her studies. He also wanted to hold a fashion show in Ga-young's name, but she didn't want these things. She accidentally saw him planning to take back IGM. She felt that he shouldn't treat Jae-hyuk like that. In Young-gul's heart, he wouldn't forgive those who had humiliated him. There was a distance between the two. Ga-young said she wanted to live in the factory like before. Young-gul had a headache. He could give Ga-young the best things, but she wouldn't accept it. Jae-hyuk couldn't contact Ga-young. He tore up her resignation letter. Jae-hyuk frantically searched for Ga-young. It wasn't until evening that he found her at factory. He begged her to return to his company. As soon as he went out, Jae-hyuk met Young-gul again. The two of them looked at each other and were unhappy. Young-gul was not at ease leaving Ga-young to sleep here alone. He also wanted to sleep over, so the two of them squeezed into the single bed. Ga-young really couldn't do anything. She had no choice but to compromise and agree to go home with him. Young-gul's GG had seriously threatened IGM. President Chung invited him to his house to propose a cooperation. Obviously, Young-gul had no such intention. He had secretly bought back the company in Italy. After that, Young-gul sent someone to negotiate a cooperation with Jae-hyuk. They built the IGM brand together on the condition that Young-gul had to have 51% of the shares. Jae-hyuk wanted to prove himself. He signed the contract without thinking much. At this point, he had fallen into Young-gul's trap. Young-gul became the controlling shareholder of IGM. By the time Jae-hyuk found out that the mastermind behind it was Young-gul, it was too late. President Chung was furious when he knew what his son had done. As a tycoon, how could he forgive Young-gul? This also led to the tragedy that followed. Young-gul also used his last trick on Cho-san. Because Young-gul had a lot of evidence against Cho-san, she could only sell the fashion store to him at a cheap price. She hated Young-gul very much. Cho-san thought of finding an opportunity to take revenge on Young-gul. Although he had many enemies, he was not afraid. For him, even if he lost, he would just return to the starting point. It didn't matter. Young-gul could start over. Young-gul drove a luxury racing car to pick up Ga-young. He took her to the fashion store he had just bought. The name of the store had been changed to Ga-young's name. He gave Ga-young her parents' store back. Young-gul intended to give Ga-young a surprise, but she was not happy. This place was full of unpleasant memories for her. She never thought about taking it back. Young-gul really didn't understand. It turned out that he had done something meaningless. He took the key and told her to throw it away or smash it here. After that, Young-gul left, but then he received news that his father had passed away. Up until now, he had not had the courage to go see his father. Now, Young-gul would never have the chance to see him again. Feeling guilty towards his father, he drowned his sorrows in alcohol. Young-gul even intentionally provoked others to get himself beaten, hoping to use this as a way to relieve the pain in his heart. Returning to the factory, Ga-young returned the key to the fashion store to Young-gul. She did not want to accept it. Young-gul really did not understand why she refused to accept anything he gave her. In the end, what did she want him to do? The two argued again. Ga-young just wanted to live her small life, but Young-gul had ambitions. The two of them did not have the same goals. Cho-san also found a way to defeat Young-gul, which was to take advantage of public opinion. Young-gul had a villa abroad and several luxury racing cars. Now Young-gul also had plans to develop a resort. As long as they spread the news that Young-gul was using the hard-earned money of the vendors to live a lavish life, people's hearts wavered. They also launched a trade association with the same model as GG. It could beat Young-gul's GG. Sure enough, things went as they predicted. Young-gul's extravagant life was exposed. He began to lose the trust of the small and medium-sized manufacturers. They switched to supporting Jae-hyuk. Young-gul began to face a crisis. He pretended that nothing had happened and went home to have dinner with Ga-young. Finally, she came to her senses. Ga-young agreed to accept the fashion store that Young-gul had given her. She also prepared for her own fashion show. Young-gul joked that he might have to rely on Ga-young to support her in the future. The bank wouldn't give him any more loans. He could only sell his car and house, but it still couldn't solve the crisis. The factory was in chaos. At this point, he didn't care about his career. Young-gul only cared about one thing: how much money it would cost to hold a fashion show. When Young-gul knew he needed 200 million, he immediately went to find Jae-hyuk. He planned to borrow money to hold a fashion show for Ga-young. At the same time, Young-gul offered to sell IGM shares to Jae-hyuk. When he returned to the factory, Ga-young was already asleep. Young-gul looked at Ga-young one last time. He left behind a diamond necklace and a lollipop and left. No one knew where Young-gul went. Jae-hyuk was beaten by his father for spending 150 billion to buy back IGM shares, while President Chung told him not to care about IGM anymore. But this foolish son was still harmed miserably. Ga-young saw Jae-hyuk like that. Her heart began to waver. A month later, Jae-hyuk came to find Ga-young. By chance, he saw the letter Young-gul wrote to her. Young-gul bought a plane ticket for Ga-young. Young-gul told her to come to his house in New York, but Jae-hyuk hid the letter and proposed to Ga-young. He asked her to study abroad in America with him. Ga-young agreed. Young-gul waited alone, but he couldn't wait for Ga-young anymore. Not long after, Young-gul learned that Ga-young had returned to school. He immediately put on a luxurious suit, holding a rose, hands and waited for Ga-young. When he saw her come out, he was very excited, but unexpectedly, Jae-hyuk appeared next to Ga-young. The two held hands and were extremely happy. Young-gul was in great pain. He went to the small house where the two of them used to live. Young-gul sat down on the floor, remembering the past. Finally, he burst into tears. Young-gul had the whole world but lost the person he loved. He got drunk and returned to his villa. Young-gul collapsed, sat in the pool, and couldn't help but call Ga-young. He told Ga-young that he missed her. Young-gul asked if she wanted to come find him. As soon as he finished speaking, he was shocked. Young-gul never heard Ga-young's "I miss you too." Young-gul's life had ups and downs, making people both love and hate him. In the end, it still ended in tragedy. Many people said that Young-gul's death was absurd, but in reality, it wasn't. After Young-gul played around with tycoons and swindled such a large sum of money so many times, how could Young-gul have a good ending? The movie has ended here. Thank you for your interest in watching. See you again in the next movies.